Hi, I have a very interesting presentation for you today. The question is, what do very rich people do when they want to transfer assets and they don't want to pay estate taxes, not to their children, but they also want to have wealth passed to their grandchildren and beyond without paying an estate tax every single time, as every generation passes? There is in the code, as I mentioned, the gift and estate tax, which is tax a 40% tax on wealth passed either through gift or by through estate taxation at death to children, and that's a 40% tax beyond the exemptions. Now, there is also, as I mentioned, the generation skipping transfer tax, which is a tax on wealth passed to grandchildren. So, for example, if a generation one, the grandparent, we'll call them in this case, wants to pass wealth on to his grandchildren, leaving out the exemptions for a moment, so the wealth would bypass the children, but still be taxed at 40%. When the wealth gets to the grandchildren, it's taxed again at 40%. So, incredibly, the tax could be higher than 80%. It could go up to 80, 90%. It's depending on the type of structure. It's very, very confiscatory. So now there does exist in the code the GST exemption, and like the gift and estate tax exemption, it's also $12 million or $24 million per couple. Now there is an additional hurdle, so to speak, that has to be gotten over, and that is there's a state-by-state rule against perpetuities. That is the length of time that assets can remain in a trust. They're fairly short in New York and New Jersey, but there are a couple of states that have extended, invitations to do business there for dynasty planning. For example, Nevada has a rule of perpetuities of 356 years, and Alaska outdid them and established a rule of perpetuities for 1,000 years. Okay, so now when you have a trust domiciled in a state you don't live in, it's critical to have, you have to have representation on the ground. And so the trust would hire an institutional trustee who is domiciled in that particular state, either Nevada or Alaska in this previous example. And actually, an institutional trustee is extremely important because it is inside the trust survivor's life insurance, or at least life insurance inside the trust. So, and only an institutional trustee can manage, or a separate independent trustee can manage the life insurance. Above and beyond that, you would want an institutional trustee that would last for generations, and corporations like a bank can do that. Now, there is also going to be a little bit closer to home, an investment trustee. An investment trustee will manage the assets inside the trust separately from the institutional trustee. That could be a broker that you've done business with, or somebody you're familiar with. The first thing that should happen in trust structure is the trust should be seeded with at least 10% of the future value of what goes into the trust. That gives the IRS pause, because this is not just an around end of taxes, this is a legitimate structure. So that's very important. Now, beyond that, for the trust to be a GST exempt trust, generation skipping exempt trust, positive allocation of the $24 million should take place when assets are gifted, first discounted, and then gifted into the trust. Beyond that, for great wealth, the grantors can also sell assets into the trust using an exclusion available in the code. Now, once all of that is set up, the trust can begin making beneficial payments to generation two, their children. And they could make beneficial payments based on health, education, maintenance, and support. Now, the trustee, the institutional trustee, can be given and should be given the right to pause beneficial enjoyment in case somebody brings a suit against one of the beneficiaries in an attempt to pierce the trust. So the trustee should have that power. Now, at some point, generation 3, the grandchildren are going to want and need some money, and they can also receive paying beneficial enjoyment for the same reasons: health, education, maintenance, and support, and also adult supervision, we'll call it. In case they get sued or there's a divorce in the family, they can hold distributions. This trust can go on and on for generations, and the wealth can keep getting built up, and it's just a tremendous asset to people of great wealth. If you like this video, and you should, I have a lot of very interesting estate planning videos on my site. The name of the site is MorrisJMizrahiLLC.com. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to have additional videos, presentations for you in the near future. Thank you. Bye-bye.